Have you ever paused to consider the unseen architects behind medical breakthroughs? The forces constantly refining and improving patient care.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pivotal role that acts as the essential bridge, transforming raw healthcare information into life-changing insights. It's a field just exploding with opportunity.
You've absolutely hit on it. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the dynamic world of the clinical data analyst.
Okay.
Our mission: to truly unpack what this crucial role entails, the intricate challenges these professionals, well, expertly navigate, and the sophisticated skills and tools they wield.
Right.
Basically turning complex medical data into actionable knowledge. We've distilled the most important insights from a comprehensive guide on clinical data analyst interview questions, giving you a real shortcut, to understanding this fascinating and rapidly growing field.
And when we say rapidly growing, we're talking serious scale here.
Yeah.
The global clinical data analytics market is predicted to see a compound annual growth rate of, 14.2%?
That's the number.
Anticipating it to hit a massive $11.3 billion by 2025.
It's huge.
That kind of growth isn't just a number. It fundamentally underscores the increasing urgent need for data-driven insights to reshape healthcare.
Definitely.
It's why understanding this role is more vital than ever.
So let's cut to the chase then and explore the core of what a clinical data analyst actually does.
Okay.
At its heart, their primary duties are foundational to medical progress. They're responsible for collecting vast amounts of data from numerous medical research projects.
Right, like clinical trials.
Exactly. Clinical trials for new drugs, pharmaceutical studies, you name it.
And it's so much more than just collecting, isn't it? Once that raw information is gathered, then what?
Well, then they dive deep to compile and analyze that incredibly complex healthcare data. And here's where the rubber meets the road, as you said. They translate those findings into clear, digestible insights, communicating those crucial results to important stakeholders, from research teams to, say, regulatory bodies.
So it's a complete life cycle, from inception to impact.
Precisely. The why behind their work is just as compelling as the what.
Yeah.
Their efforts directly contribute to improving patient outcomes, pushing the boundaries of scientific inquiry, and even accelerating the approval of new therapies.
Wow.
Without them, that vast ocean of medical information would remain just that data, not actionable knowledge.
Okay, let's talk about that transformation process then. How does a clinical data analyst actually transform that raw, sometimes messy medical data into something truly meaningful?
Right.
It's not magic. It sounds like a very deliberate, methodical journey.
Yeah.
Can you trace those crucial steps involved in any analytics project?
Absolutely. It typically kicks off with understanding the specific research question or, the business problem, defining the overall goals, and then meticulously planning the solution.
Okay.
Planning first.
Then comes the critical step of gathering the right data from diverse sources, making sure it aligns with the project's objectives. And then comes what many in the data world would probably call the most challenging yet crucial phase, right?
Yeah.
The notorious data cleaning.
You've hit on it.
Yeah.
Once the data is gathered, that's where the real challenge often begins, the crucial process of data cleaning. After that, analysts move to explore and analyze the data, often leveraging powerful visualization tools, business intelligence platforms.
Like Tableau?
Like Tableau, exactly. And even advanced techniques like data mining and predictive modeling. The final essential step is interpreting those results to derive meaningful conclusions and insights.
That data cleaning step you mentioned, that's where the term data wrangling comes in, isn't it?
It is.
Sounds like an essential and perhaps even messy process, especially in a clinical context.
It truly is. Think of data wrangling as transforming raw, often chaotic data into a polished, structured, and enriched format that's actually usable for robust decision-making. It's about discovering inconsistencies, structuring disparate pieces of information, cleaning out errors, enriching it with context, validating its integrity, and then analyzing it.
So it turns mountains of raw data into reliable building blocks.
Basically, yes. It's fundamental.
So given the sheer volume and sensitivity of medical data, what are some of the most common pitfalls or recurring challenges these analysts face when navigating it?
Oh, The landscape is certainly complex. Common hurdles include effectively handling duplicate records.
Always a problem.
Always. Ensuring they collect truly meaningful data at the precise right time, managing the often daunting tasks of data purging and storage,
Right.
and crucially, maintaining stringent data security and compliance with strict regulations.
And within that complexity, you're bound to encounter those pesky things called outliers.
Hmm.
What exactly is an outlier in this context, and how do analysts decide what to do with them?
Think of an outlier not just as a data point that's different, but potentially as a crucial signal. In a clinical trial, it could mean anything from a faulty sensor to a unique patient response that might hint at something important.
Like a new drug application.
Potentially, or even an early warning of a serious adverse event others might have missed. They might be due to natural variability, or they could indeed indicate errors.
So how do they handle them?
Well, they have a few options. They might carefully remove the outlier records if they're clearly errors, maybe cap the data's extreme values.
Set a limit.
Exactly, or assign a more representative new value, or even apply a different transformation method to reduce their impact.
So you can't just ignore them.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Ignoring an outlier isn't just bad statistics, it can have real-world patient consequences.
That's a powerful way to put it. Speaking of common issues, what about missing data? That must be a constant headache.
Missing data is unfortunately a very common occurrence. Yeah.
How do they deal with that?
Analysts typically tackle it through imputation,
Imputation.
which involves replacing those missing values with intelligent estimates based on other available information.
Okay.
Or, depending on the context and the amount missing, they might opt for deletion, which means removing records that contain too many missing values from the data set.
Right.
Often, it's a strategic combination of both methods.
And what if the data itself wasn't properly collected or organized to begin with? That sounds like a nightmare scenario.
It can definitely be challenging, but it's a common reality analysts face.
So what do they do?
The first step is to thoroughly assess the issue and pinpoint why things went wrong. This might involve direct conversations with the data collection team or a deep dive into existing documentation. From there, the solutions could range from strategically recollecting missing data points to meticulously reorganizing existing data.
Making it more logical.
Exactly, into more logical and structured categories, or even implementing entirely new, more robust collection processes moving forward. It's all about finding the root cause and addressing it.
So how do they ensure accuracy and reliability throughout this entire process?
Well,
It sounds like constant vigilance.
it absolutely is. To ensure accuracy and reliability, they rigorously double-check data sources to confirm their reputability and validity.
Oh.
Beyond that, they perform rigorous, systematic quality checks on all incoming data, identifying any potential errors or inconsistencies before analysis even begins.
Right. Preemptive checks.
It's about building trust in the data from the ground up.
That sounds like a lot of heavy lifting, and it certainly requires a serious toolkit. Let's talk about the concepts, techniques, and technologies that a clinical data analyst wields.
Sure.
First up, those statistical foundations. Sampling, for instance. We've all heard the term, but why is it so critical in a clinical setting, and what are some approaches?
Well, in clinical research, analyzing an entire patient population is rarely feasible, so sampling is paramount.
Makes sense.
It's the statistical method of selecting a representative subset of data from a larger population to make inferences about the whole.
And there are different types.
Yes, several types: simple, random, systematic, cluster, stratified, judgmental. But the goal is always to get a representative subset without analyzing everyone.
Stratified sounds relevant for trials.
Very relevant. You might use stratified sampling to ensure you're fairly representing different age groups or ethnicities in a trial, which is crucial for checking drug safety and efficacy across diverse populations.
Okay. And then there's hypothesis testing, which sounds like something straight out of a science class.
It is indeed a cornerstone of the scientific method. Hypothesis testing is the procedure scientists and statisticians use to accept or reject statistical claims about a population.
How does that work?
Fundamentally, you have two main types. The null hypothesis, which postulates there's no relationship or effect. For example, stating there's no link between BMI and diabetes.
Okay, the no effect idea.
Right. Then there's the alternative hypothesis, which proposes there is a relationship or effect, like an association between BMI and diabetes.
Got it.
The analyst's job is to use data to determine which hypothesis the evidence supports.
And with hypothesis testing, we inevitably encounter the infamous type I and type 2 errors.
Ah, yes.
In the high-stakes world of clinical trials, how do these errors manifest? They sound serious.
They are incredibly serious. In clinical trials, these errors are far more than academic concepts. A type I error, also known as a false positive, occurs when you incorrectly reject a true null hypothesis.
So you think there's an effect when there isn't?
Exactly. In practice, this could mean concluding a new drug is effective when it's not, potentially leading to millions invested in a therapy that ultimately proves ineffective.
Wasting resources and patient time.
Precisely. Conversely, a type 2 error, or a false negative, happens when you fail to reject a false null hypothesis.
Meaning you miss a real effect.
Yes, this could mean missing out on a genuinely life-saving treatment, incorrectly concluding it's ineffective, and denying patients a critical therapy. Understanding this delicate balance, well, it's absolutely central to responsible drug development.
That really brings home the real-world implications. Moving beyond the foundational stats, analysts categorize data analysis into different levels, right? Descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics.
That's right.
How does a clinical data analyst move through these stages?
Well, descriptive analytics is all about understanding what has happened, providing insights into past events like, say, how many patients experienced a certain side effect in a trial.
Looking back.
Exactly. Predictive analytics then shifts to what could happen, using historical data to forecast future outcomes, like predicting which patients might be at higher risk for a condition.
Looking forward.
And then prescriptive analytics is the most advanced, answering, what should you do? It suggests optimal courses of action.
Like treatment recommendations.
For instance, yes, recommending the best treatment pathway for a specific patient profile based on the data. Each level really builds upon the insights from the last.
So an analyst isn't just looking at what is, but also what was, what could be, and crucially, what should be done. That's comprehensive.
It aims to be.
And within those levels, there are different approaches, like exploratory data analysis or ED. Why is that so significant, especially in clinical research?
EDA is hugely significant because it's where analysts really get to know their data. It's like the initial detective work.
Okay.
It's about understanding the underlying structure, spotting initial patterns, building confidence in the data's quality before you jump into complex machine learning algorithms.
Makes sense.
It helps refine which variables or features are most important for building models, and often uncovers hidden trends and insights that weren't immediately obvious.
So it sets the stage.
Exactly.
And when you're performing that detective work, you can categorize analysis based on the number of variables you're looking at. Univariate, bivariate, and multivariate analysis.
That's right.
How do those differ, and where might you use them in a clinical setting?
Univariate analysis is the simplest form, focusing on just one variable, like studying the average age of participants in a clinical trial. You describe it using things like mean, median, mode, dispersion, or maybe simple bar charts.
And bivariate.
Bivariate analysis looks at two variables to find causes, relationships, or correlations. For example, analyzing how a new drug dosage correlates with a patient's heart rate.
Right.
Here, you might use correlation coefficients or scatter plots to visualize the relationship.
And then multivariate. That sounds complex.
Multivariate analysis involves 3 or more variables, aiming to understand the complex interrelationships between them.
Give me an example.
Imagine analyzing a patient's recovery time based on their age, their gender, and the specific dosage of a new medication they received.
Oh, okay.
This often employs more advanced techniques like multiple regression or cluster analysis to tease out those complex connections.
Fascinating. And there's also time series analysis. What is that, and what makes it unique for clinical data?
Time series analysis isn't just a fancy term. It's how analysts track changes over time.
Like patient monitoring.
Exactly. Imagine plotting a patient's blood sugar levels throughout the day after a new insulin dosage, or maybe monitoring the prevalence of a disease in a specific population over decades.
Right.
It's a statistical procedure dealing with ordered sequences of values at equally spaced intervals. What makes it unique is the inherent correlation between observations collected close together in time.
Sequence matters.
Absolutely. That's crucial for spotting trends, cycles, and the immediate impact of interventions in a chronological context.
Okay, shifting gears slightly to the actual tools and technologies. What are some of the key software platforms and programming languages clinical data analysts need to be proficient in to handle all this?
Their digital arsenal is pretty comprehensive. Proficiency is often required in statistical software like SAS or SPSS.
The classics.
Right. Programming languages like R and Python are huge now for advanced analytics and machine learning, and visualization tools such as Tableau. These are really fundamental for everything from data manipulation to statistical modeling and, importantly, presenting insights clearly.
And when dealing with data from multiple places, can you clarify the difference between data joining and data blending? I hear those terms used.
Sure. It's a subtle but important difference. Data joining typically applies when you're combining data from the same underlying source.
Like tables in one database.
Exactly, like different tables within a single clinical database. Data blending, on the other hand, is generally more flexible. It's where data can be drawn from two or more distinct and separate sources, bringing them together for analysis.
Got it. Different sources versus same source. Now, for visualizations, we've probably all seen bar graphs and pie charts. But what are tree maps and heat maps? Why might they be useful clinically?
Good question. Tree maps are excellent for displaying hierarchical data using nested rectangles.
Hierarchical.
Yeah, so you could visualize patient populations broken down by, say, disease type, then severity within that type, then age group, all within a single dynamic view.
Nested levels.
Right. Heat maps are fantastic for visualizing two dimensions using color intensity. They often reveal patterns or correlations in large data sets.
Like hotspots.
Kind of, yeah. You could map drug interactions or gene expression levels, for example. And of course, experience with a full range of visualization types like bar graphs, scatter plots, line graphs is crucial.
Sure. I've heard of a Gantt chart. But how does it specifically come into play in a tool like Tableau for clinical data?
In Tableau, a Gantt chart is incredibly useful for visualizing the progress or duration of events over time.
Project management style.
Exactly. In a clinical trial setting, it might depict the timeline of different study phases, the enrollment period for patients, or the duration of specific treatments. It helps track milestones and dependencies visually.
And just to give our listener a sense of the practical application of specific technical knowledge,
Yeah.
how might an analyst use something like Excel, SQL, NumPy, or Tableau day to day? Not just listing functions, but what problems do they solve?
Absolutely. Think about it this way. An analyst might use Excel for, say, quick routine tracking of patient visit dates, or for cross-referencing basic demographic data from different sheets. Simple, quick tasks. In SQL, they're probably building complex queries to extract specific patient cohorts for a study, maybe pulling everyone with a certain diagnosis and age range, or perhaps automating routine reports from large databases. It's about powerful data retrieval and manipulation.
Right. Getting the right data out.
Yeah. NumPy in Python is critical for the statistical heavy lifting, like generating random assignments for study groups in a clinical trial, ensuring fairness, or performing complex numerical computations needed for modeling.
Like Math Engine.
Pretty much. And Tableau is often used to build those intuitive, interactive dashboards. They might track real-time study progress, visualize patient outcomes across different treatment arms, or compare drug efficacies.
Live updates?
Sometimes. Tableau offers both extract options, which are like snapshots from the data source that refresh periodically, and live connections that are direct and always up to date, depending on the project's needs.
That's a great way to frame it, focusing on the why behind the tool.
Oh, yeah.
Now let's zoom in on the clinical part of clinical data analysts. What are some specifics about clinical trials they absolutely need to know? Like, what's a protocol document? Sounds important.
It is the trial's blueprint. The protocol document meticulously defines the objectives, the methodology, design, statistical considerations, and the overall organization of a clinical trial.
Why so detailed?
Its purpose is to ensure that researchers across multiple locations conduct the study in precisely the same manner. That's essential for combining their data later as if it were a single coherent study. It's the ultimate guide for consistency and scientific rigor.
Got it. And what about terms like IND and CT? What do they refer to?
IND stands for Investigational New Drug. That's the specific agent, therapy, or device being studied and tested during a trial.
The thing being tested.
Exactly. And CT, or clinical trials, refers to the rigorous multi-phase human studies designed to systematically test these new drugs, therapies, or medical devices. They're the gold standard for proving safety and effectiveness before something reaches patients.
And before a drug even gets to those human clinical trials, there's a crucial preclinical study phase, right?
Correct.
What does that involve?
A preclinical study is the essential groundwork that happens before human trials. It typically involves in vitro studies, lab tests outside a living organism, and often animal studies.
Testing on animals.
Often, yes. During this phase, researchers administer a range of doses to test for toxicity, potential side effects, and initial efficacy parameters. It's about ensuring it's reasonably safe to move into human testing.
Makes sense. And when the human trials begin, you often hear about double-blind studies or masking. Why are these techniques so vital in clinical research?
They're absolutely vital for reducing bias and ensuring the integrity of the results. A double-blind study is a type of experiment where neither the participants nor the researchers administering the treatment know who is receiving the actual treatment and who is receiving a placebo.
Nobody knows who gets what.
Right. Masking or blinding is the broader concept. It's when a researcher purposefully hides details from a subject regarding their specific treatment assignment, whether it's the placebo, the investigational product, or a standard treatment.
And the point is,
It removes conscious or unconscious bias from both the participants and the researchers, significantly increasing the accuracy and reliability of the study's findings.
okay. And for those of us not in the medical field, what exactly is a placebo? We often hear about it, but what's its role?
A placebo refers to a substance, maybe a powder, pill, or liquid, that looks identical to the actual treatment but contains no active ingredients.
A sugar pill, basically.
Often, yes, or something inert. Its role is crucial. It helps researchers isolate the true effect of the study treatment by comparing the outcomes of the group getting the active drug to a control group getting the placebo.
Who think they're getting treated.
Exactly. Researchers can more accurately determine if the experimental treatment truly makes a difference beyond any psychological expectation or the natural course of the condition.
Got it. Beyond the trials themselves, clinical data analysts are dealing with incredibly sensitive patient information. What does a patient file typically contain, and what are the main challenges in managing these records?
A patient's file is a comprehensive record. It holds their full medical and treatment history, along with essential demographic data. These files can be paper-based, entirely digital, or often a combination.
And the challenges.
The primary challenges are ensuring that all this data is meticulously accurate and consistently up to date.
Which must be hard.
It is. And critically, maintaining the ironclad confidentiality and robust security of all that highly sensitive patient information, it's a real tightrope walk between making data useful for research and protecting privacy.
That brings us squarely to ethics. Given the sensitivity of health data, what are the ethical guidelines and regulations they absolutely must comply with? How do they navigate that tightrope?
It's a huge responsibility, really. They must ensure absolute compliance with stringent regulations like HIPAA in the US,
Right.
GDPR in Europe, alongside a host of other relevant national and international laws concerning patient privacy and health information security.
And that's not just a one-off.
No, absolutely not. This isn't a one-time check. It involves regularly reviewing and updating policies, procedures, and protocols to ensure they are consistently current and in line with all legal and ethical requirements. It's a continuous commitment to safeguarding trust.
And within that framework of accountability and transparency, what's an audit trail in this clinical data context?
An audit trail is essentially the detailed digital breadcrumb path. It demonstrates a study was carried out following all accepted protocols and guidelines.
How does it do that?
It records precisely who made changes to data, what changes were made, why they were made, and when those changes occurred. This is absolutely vital for accountability, transparency, and maintaining the integrity of the research.
So you can trace everything back.
Exactly, ensuring that every data point can be traced back to its origin and any modification.
So how does a clinical data analyst specifically contribute to ensuring patient safety through their work? It sounds like they're a silent guardian of sorts.
They truly are in many ways. Their role in patient safety is paramount. They must thoroughly analyze and interpret the vast data sets, looking for any emerging trends in patient outcomes.
Like a side effect.
Side effects, potential risks, or signaling unexpected issues. It's also about ensuring all data is accurate and up to date, as flawed data can lead to flawed conclusions that impact care. They also need to stay constantly aware of any new regulations or guidelines that may affect their analysis and ensure full compliance. By diligently doing all this, they can help flag areas for improvement in healthcare provision and directly influence patient well-being.
Finally, let's talk about the human element and the future of this role. What are the most important qualities for a successful clinical data analyst, beyond just technical prowess?
That's a great question. 3 key qualities really stand out, I think. First, strong problem-solving skills. The ability to identify subtle patterns, diagnose complex issues, and develop robust solutions.
Seeing the patterns.
Yes. Second, meticulous attention to detail. Accuracy is just non-negotiable in this field, and every piece of information must be considered.
Can't afford mistakes.
Not really. And third, excellent communication skills. The capacity to translate highly technical findings into clear, actionable insights for diverse stakeholders, from scientists to executives.
It sounds like there's a lot of collaboration involved then.
Yeah.
What's the relationship like between an analyst and a medical researcher? Are they truly partners?
They are absolutely partners. The relationship is highly collaborative and significant. Clinical data analysts provide accurate, timely, and profoundly meaningful analysis that forms the backbone of medical research.
What does that look like?
This includes everything from analyzing patient records and generating comprehensive reports to creating intuitive visualizations that help researchers identify crucial trends and validate hypotheses. They're not just supporting, they're actively informing and sometimes even steering the direction of scientific discovery.
And what if they encounter a glaring discrepancy in the data that just doesn't make sense? How do they approach investigating something like that?
It's like being a detective, really. Their first step is always to go back to the source. Review the raw data to ensure its accuracy, meticulously verify any calculations, and double-check for simple entry errors.
Check the basics first.
Always. Then they contextualize the data, considering any external factors that might influence the results. Finally, they'll compare the anomalous data with similar data sets, maybe from previous studies.
See if it's a one-off?
Exactly. To see if the discrepancy is an isolated incident or perhaps part of a broader pattern.
And on a more personal note, how critical is it for an analyst to own up to their mistakes, especially in a field where the stakes are so high?
Oh, it's paramount. In a field where decisions can directly impact patient health and research outcomes, honesty and integrity are non-negotiable.
So what do they do if an error happens?
If a mistake is found, the absolute first step is to take full responsibility. Then, they immediately launch into investigating how the error occurred and determine the precise corrective steps needed to rectify it and, crucially, prevent it from happening again.
Transparency is key.
Transparency and a commitment to resolution are fundamental to maintaining trust and scientific rigor.
Beyond handling current data, how can clinical data analysts contribute to improving data collection methods for the future? They must see all the pain points.
They're uniquely positioned to provide critical feedback, absolutely. They can champion the creation of standardized protocols for data collection.
Consistency.
Right, which fundamentally streamlines the process and drastically reduces errors. They can also advocate for investing in robust quality control measures, like implementing double-checking systems or using automated error detection tools.
Using tech.
And crucially, yes, advising on leveraging technology to automate certain aspects of data collection and organization, maybe drawing data more efficiently from various disparate sources, turning current pain points into future efficiencies. What's fascinating here, though, is that the role of a clinical data analyst isn't static. It's constantly evolving.
Yes, I believe the role of a clinical data analyst will transform significantly. As technology relentlessly advances and healthcare organizations become ever more reliant on data-driven decisions.
Which they are.
The demand for highly skilled analysts to interpret this complex data will only surge. Clinical data analysts must not only understand intricate data sets, but also translate them into actionable intelligence that truly informs decision-making and measurably improves patient outcomes.
So continuous learning is essential.
Absolutely. This means they must continually adapt, staying up to date with cutting-edge technologies, new analytical methods, emerging trends in the field, just to remain competitive, effective, and truly impactful.
To recap then, the clinical data analyst isn't just a number cruncher, right? They are essential navigators in the vast, intricate ocean of healthcare data.
Well said.
They're the ones shaping patient care, driving scientific discovery, and ensuring that the insights from complex medical information can truly lead to life-changing improvements.
So thinking ahead, as technology continues to push boundaries, how might the increasing integration of artificial intelligence and, say, the proliferation of personal health data from wearables and apps, how might that redefine the ethical landscape and daily responsibilities of a clinical data analyst in the next 5 years?
That's a big question.
And related to that, what new skills might become paramount for you, the listener, to master, to thrive in this evolving environment?